Chefs of Reddit, what are some red flags people should look out for when they go out to eat? Former health inspector here. If there's a self-serve soda machine, go ahead and take a napkin around the inside of the Sprite clear soda available nozzle. If your napkin comes out pink, brown, or orange, skip the soda. A Sprite nozzle should come out clear. If it's pink or orange, then it's slime mold. It's actually a bacteria, but that's what we called it. If it's brown, it's likely cola. But if the cola nozzle was put on the Sprite dispenser and is still brown, you know the nozzles aren't being cleaned properly. Also, go ahead and look closely at the ice chute. I see green algae in those a lot. Ice bins never, ever get cleaned. Eck. I took over managing a hotel bar, and the first thing I did was create a cleaning schedule. I had the ice well as a daily shutdown activity, and the bartenders lost their shit. Said it was too much work. So I started emptying it to assess the situation, and the whole bottom of it was a thick layer of deep green algae. I put a strainer down to catch anything not water as it drained, then showed the whole staff all the goodies I had collected, like fingernail clippings, glass, food, a screw, etc. They were absolutely horrified. Still bitched every night about having to clean it though. You might have to be a chef to recognize this, but my red flag is going into a busy restaurant and noticing none of the tables have food, or not many customers are yet eating. This usually means the kitchen is going down in flames. One time I noticed this and could see some foods slowly stacking up in the window, but no orders coming out. I mentioned it to the server, and he replied, "I wouldn't suggest ordering food." He brought our drink check and we left. He was tipped well for his honesty. The other day we went to a restaurant a little after noon, and it was packed with the lunch rush. My husband suggested maybe we get fast food, but I looked around and said everything was going to be fine because 80% of the tables already had food or a check. This reaction surprised him, because he's used to me seeing a crowded restaurant and saying nope and turning around. He doesn't understand what I'm looking for, which is a sign that the servers have shit under control or are in the weeds. Overworked staff. What cleaning jobs do you think are getting missed if staff are far too stretched and or unhappy at work? We avoid restaurants that are constantly having staff turnover for this exact reason. There is a place here, open less than a year, constantly advertising for staff. Right now he has 7 positions open out of maybe 15. If it is an ongoing issue, it is probably mismanagement. Unhappy employees handling food just makes me uncomfortable, to say the least. Not a chef, but my best friend is, and he says a large menu. Chances are a lot of things on a menu means that they are frozen. Also, it's difficult to train people to be good at making 40 different things, so the quality is going to suffer. Some places like Chinese restaurants that are different combinations of about 30 fresh ingredients are an exception. Large menu is the biggest tell you're about to have a shit meal. If you absolutely have to order there, ask what the most popular dish is and just order that. Ask where your oysters come from. If they don't know, you don't want them. Works for most seafood. My first day selling seafood. Customer: are your scallops dry or wet packed? Me, thinking that was a silly question, as I mean, they are from the ocean. Wet, of course. Customer politely says thank you and walks away. Still feel like a dummy for that one. Not a chef, but ex-restaurant manager. How happy is the staff? Do they seem like they like their jobs? If the staff are miserable, you're not going to get quality food or service. It's worth seeking out restaurants that treat their staff well. If they're treated well, they'll treat you well. I've heard that if you actually smell fish at a sushi restaurant, it's in your and your inside's best interest to hightail it out of there. Sushi is another one for when in doubt, there's no doubt. Sushi chef ringing on this one. There are many factors that play a role in the development of bad smell, and pure fishiness has more to do with bloodlines, chai, and blood than anything else. I'm seeing a lot of this and that, but no one is really hitting it on the head. A fish smells like a fish. There's stages in its breakdown, however, that change smell by removing different pieces of anatomy. Good fish should not smell like aged fish. Repeated encounters with unclean or relatively unclean surfaces can inspire bacterial growth that cause smell. Which is why I clean my cutting board and wash my hands regularly to reduce cross-contact and remove biofilm. Biofilm is what bacteria thrive in. It's like nature's natural petri dish. It's why I removed the slime. Not to mention you never fucking leave fish of any kind outside of 33 to 41 degrees Fahrenheit unless you're working on it with clean hands on a clean surface with a clean knife. Then you cool it rapidly. Handling the fish and taking good, really good care of it is just as important as cleaning it properly, shipping it properly. But there are exceptions. Some fish fucking reek. Mackerel? Salmon? They're smelly motherfuckers, but you can clean up salmon pretty well for prom. Mackerel though? It straight up tastes fishy. Actual former chef here. These comments saying, don't eat whatever food on a day of week because it's leftovers. This is called utilization. Specials are just that. Things that we'd rather sell than throw out. Those of us who actually know what we're doing, carefully cool down and store things so they have as much menu life as possible. Only an idiot would throw away perfectly good, saleable food if it didn't sell on the first night. Yes, as long as it was labeled and dated properly. I'm always after my coworkers to put the dates on things they prep. It's so important, and so many cooks are so frustratingly bad at it. Does it sound like it could be 2 or more restaurants? Example, sushi and pizza at the same place. They can't do either well. Not a chef, but worked at a KFC for a while, so here's a KFC specific thing. There are 2 towel colors for cleaning use at KFC franchises, at least in American ones, no idea about others. There are yellow towels, which are intended for surfaces that cooked foods will touch, and blue towels, which are only to be used in raw chicken areas. This is to prevent cross-contamination. Cooked chicken never touches raw chicken areas, and cooked and raw areas are never cleaned with the same towels. The thing to look out for? Raw chicken areas are usually not visible from the front counter, at least in most locations I've seen. If you see a blue towel, don't eat there. Now this isn't a hard and fast rule. I would recommend asking the cashier about it if you see anything suspicious. When I went to Europe, a KFC location in Amsterdam had blue towels and cleaning solution on top of all the trash cans in the lobby. They weren't for raw chicken, they just had a different cleaning procedure there. Not a chef, and more a green flag. If you're eating ethnic food and all the customers are of the ethnicity in question, then the food is probably going to be freaking awesome. Good observation. I live in London and I too use that system. Turkish restaurant near me is always packed with Turkish people and a Chinese restaurant nearby is usually packed with Chinese people, and in both places the food is outstanding. A green flag is an open kitchen where you can see everything getting cooked. There's an open kitchen diner where I live and the food is killer. Rats in the restaurant cooking food. I saw a movie about that once. Read Anthony Bourdain's book. He runs down a bunch. Brunch is just using up leftovers from the rush of the weekend. Generally worse quality food. Smaller menu is better. Mondays and Thursdays are typical new inventory days. Eat these days for freshest food. Only order shellfish from a shellfish restaurant. Know what a restaurant does well, and order that. There were a lot, read his book. R.I.P. Tony. He emphasized to never to eat fish on a Monday, because nothing can be ordered over the weekend and there's a high chance you'll get whatever was still left over from Friday's delivery. And then many years later, he said that the book had become outdated, and the food supply chain had improved enough that you probably don't need to worry too much about it. In addition to a super large, diverse menu being a huge red flag that you're getting frozen meals run through the microwave, watch for no substitutions. If the place makes its own food, they can sub virtually anything for anything else. While they may try to play it up as, our food is perfect and we refuse to change it on moral grounds, it's almost always a sign of, this was made 2 months ago and all we do is reheat it. Do you take into account any other signs? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.